Hey there, friends. Like I mentioned in yesterday's video, what a wild couple of days it's been. You're starting to see the impacts of Trump being president and the rest of the world, and certainly, sadly enough, our own politicians in America pushing back against Trump. In fact, the Democrats would rather see World War III than Trump broker a peace deal agreement. You know, that's where it all boils down to. As you watch this video and watch yesterday's video, you can see that Trump has a plan for a peace deal that does not harm anybody and everybody benefits. Everybody receives peace and we get a slight reimbursement of some of the money that we unfortunately gave to Ukraine. The Democrats don't want that. They don't want to see Trump being victorious in stopping this war. They would rather this war not only continue but escalate just to prove that Trump could not stop or end this war. Now, the main focus of this video is going to be that I want you guys to understand what happened leading up to that meeting in the White House. It's super important that we understand that, because if you don't understand or you're being misled about what happened leading up to that meeting in the White House between Zelensky, Vance, and Trump, then you may believe some of the wackos on the extreme far left whenever they tell you that Trump and Vance teamed up or set up Zelensky. It was a setup, but it was not a setup against Zelensky. It was some of these people, Phil Murphy, you've already seen that. He's mad about it because he, along with a lot of other people like Susan Rice that I mentioned yesterday, convinced Zelensky not to take the deal that he had agreed upon a week earlier with Marco Rubio. And I'm going to show you proof of all of that from sources that you cannot deny. First, I want you to see this small clip from my video from yesterday where Susan Rice talks about what she thought was included in this deal.
This was a setup. Volodymyr Zelensky was compelled to agree to a horrible deal that would have sent Ukraine's minerals to the United States without any concrete security guarantees.
So as you can see, even though Susan Rice is denying that she knew anything about this, she's never spoken to Zelensky or anything like that, she definitely helped broker the deal that convinced Zelensky not to take the deal that he had agreed upon the previous week, meaning the mineral deal. She was under the impression, as you could see in this interview with her, that there was going to be something else tied to the mineral deal. Not just the mineral deal. Like she said, oh, you're getting a mineral deal where America gets some of its money back, but there's no security guarantee for Zelensky. That's the word that I mentioned yesterday that you got to be aware of, that phrase of security guarantee. There was never a security guarantee before. In that mineral negotiation, it was simply, we are going to work with you to extract those minerals, and we're going to pay ourselves back. And more on that here in a bit. But she was under the impression that Zelensky, because they goaded him into doing this, was going to push and get and receive a security guarantee. Now, like I said yesterday, a security guarantee, it ain't some cool little paper that you write. You can't take this piece of paper and write security guarantee on it and give it to him in a frame and go, here's your security guarantee. It's not the way it works. A security guarantee is one of two things, according to Zelensky, but definitely one that we know of, boots on the ground. You cannot guarantee. Remember, it's pretty simple. A security guarantee is a guarantee of security. You can't guarantee somebody's security who is running out of people in their own country to fight and protect their country unless you add new people to it, meaning boots on the ground. There's not enough soldiers to protect Ukraine right now because they've lost 500,000 already. So that's not possible for them to protect themselves. The only way to guarantee that security would be air support and boots on the ground. That's it. That is the only way to guarantee. The word guarantee actually means something. We can't guarantee anything unless we take control of it. So that's ultimately what they expected. Now, a portion of their guarantee is, well, if you don't want boots on the ground, we'll take more money. Wait a minute. We're trying to get out of the red in this conflict. Why would we add more money to it? We don't want to go deeper in the red. We're looking to get out of it. We're looking to at least break even at this point. Why would we invest more in this thing? So you're going to let us mine when it takes about 18 to 20 years to mine anything or to get a mine established. So we're going to get maybe a couple of hundred, I don't know, millions or billions of dollars out of the ground and continue to give you hundreds and hundreds of billions more. This is the whole concept of I'm borrowing money to pay off my bills, but I'm not contributing to that. Why would we do that? Why would we give you more money to pay us back? That's ultimately what it would be. But back to the deal that was originally made. I want you guys to see this. I went to the Center for Strategic and International Studies. This is a good website if you want to know some things that are actually going on. As you can see, portions of this critical question analysis were previously published on February 21st. But it's got some updated stuff in there. But all of the information I'm about to show you took place before that Friday meeting between Zelensky and Trump. U.S. President Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have reached a bilateral agreement for the United States to jointly invest in Ukraine's critical minerals and other valuable resources. It's important that you understand this agreement was already agreed upon. Again, it states very clearly that they have reached an agreement for the United States to jointly invest in Ukraine's critical minerals and other valuable resources. This does not say we are going to be negotiating. This clearly states that this is a done deal. It has been negotiated and agreed upon. Now, if you go down here and look, what are the terms of the U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal? This, again, will confirm what I'm saying. The agreement is markedly different from the original minerals deal proposed by Trump administration. Apparently, Trump and them had talked about this prior, and they changed this even more whenever Rubio went over there. But this is the agreed upon conditions. The initial deal called for Ukraine to use its mineral resources to repay United States $500 billion for military aid previously provided. The agreed upon framework does not designate the rights of $500 billion worth of mineral revenue to the United States, nor does it include a security guarantee for Ukraine. Important that you understand that. This was not a secret. That sentence right there. Nor does it include a security guarantee for Ukraine. So this was agreed upon a week prior, again, the 21st, 7 days prior to whenever they met in the White House last week. So Zelensky and everybody else, including Susan Rice, up to this point, knew that there was no security guarantee in this mineral deal. They even state it right here. Rather, the agreement establishes a reconstruction investment fund with joint U.S. and Ukraine ownership. Ukraine will contribute 50% of all revenues earned from the future monetization of all Ukrainian government-owned natural resource assets into the fund. This includes minerals, deposits, oil, natural gas, and other relevant infrastructure. So this is super important that everybody understand this. Again, there's this misconception that we, the United States, meaning Trump and Vance, reneged on the American people's behalf with an agreement that Zelensky had that we were going to give them additional protections and additional money. Now, honestly, this was a little eye-opening to me to read this because I didn't realize that they had tweaked the agreement. I thought the agreement was go in there, we mine these things, and we get out of there. Well, with this agreement, Zelensky and Ukraine come out, I think, smelling like a rose. Because this agreement clearly states that it's a 50-50 partnership in mining those Ukrainian minerals. Ukraine keeps half of the profits. We only get half of the profits. So what would essentially happen is, since they don't have any money, I say that very sarcastically, we would pay for the mining. So we would make the investment and they would get half of the profit. You see how that works? That's a beautiful thing for Ukraine. They should have been happier than pigs in you know what to get that kind of deal, but they're not. Now, this was interesting to me because this is very similar to the guy saying, I got a lot of money, I'll pay you next week. You don't know how much money he's got, and you don't know if you're going to get repaid. Again, all this information came from the Center for Strategic and International Studies. First, there is very limited data on whether Ukraine's rare earth elements and other strategic materials are commercially viable to mine. We don't even know if they are. According to the former Director General of the Ukrainian Geological Society, there is no modern assessment of rare earth reserves in Ukraine. Existing mapping was done 30 to 60 years ago by the Soviet Union and relies on old exploration methods. Considerations that impact the commercial feasibility of mining deposits include depth, ore grade, byproducts, and location. Without confirmation of this data, mining companies are unlikely to risk investing hundreds of millions of dollars in potentially unviable deposits. Second, the war has wiped out essential infrastructure. Mining is among the most energy-intensive industries worldwide. It accounts for approximately 38% of global industrial energy use and about 15% of total electricity consumption globally. Currently, half of Ukraine's power generation capacity was either occupied by Russian forces, destroyed, or damaged. So back to Ukraine coming out of this thing smelling like a rose. All they had to agree was to sign the agreement they already agreed upon. We would have paid to go into an area, we'd have paid 100% of it, you know we would have. We'd have gone into an area, we would have mined, found who knows what, either a bunch, either some, or none. We would have eaten all that cost and split the profit. So whether we made $1 or $1 trillion, Ukraine would have gotten half, and we would have been stuck with the full bill on going in there to mine that. But we don't even know what they have. We don't even know if it's accessible. And I've read other studies, geological studies and things like that regarding mining minerals, and they clearly state that any legitimate mining process, it takes you 18 to 20 years to establish a mine, meaning infrastructure to get there, getting all the things ready, getting everything in place in order to start extracting minerals from a mine. Again, 18 to 20 years. So we're nowhere near seeing what we might get. We don't even know what it could be, if anything, at that point. So can we all agree at this point, based on everything I just showed you, that there was a deal made? The deal wasn't signed, but the deal was made. Everything I just showed you is online, all sourced. I can leave the links for you so you can go look at it yourself. There was an agreement that was made. It was simply supposed to be a photo op for Zelensky to come over here, knowing he was not getting a security guarantee or boots on the ground or any money. He was coming over here to sign an agreement stating that we were going to be partners in mining the minerals from Ukraine. He even said as much in some of his statements prior to it. In fact, he even said, we can do it. Like, he was reneging during the meeting. He said, we can do it, but I don't think it's going to stop Russia. So he knew what the agreement was. He was talked into this ahead of time to go in there and demand something extra. Don't believe me? Let me take you to a Ukrainian website that explains everything very clear. And again, I'll share the link with you so you can go back and see. This is all true. This is not left-leaning or right-leaning propaganda. This is simply information that I'm sharing with you guys that clearly shows what led up to this dust-up in the White House. This is from a Ukrainian news website, RBC-Ukraine, taken straight from them. It seems like most of the media is controlled by the government over there anyway, kind of like Russia does. So you can almost consider this coming straight from Zelensky's desk, since they don't really have freedom of speech or freedom of the press over there. Security guarantees for Ukraine. Notice that word, security guarantees for Ukraine. What Kyiv seeks, how U.S. and Europe respond. This is interesting. This, again, guys, was ahead of this meeting. So we knew, and Zelensky knew, and agreed upon, no security guarantee. But they, all along, still were expecting it. Again, I'm gonna take some of the blame, the United States here. Our intelligence department is no better than that. Maybe they are. I mean, obviously, I don't know what Trump knew. But when I look at what I'm about to show you and show that the intention and the desire for a security guarantee were there all along with these guys, and that they were intending to hold out for this prior to the meeting with Trump, even though we just saw that what was already agreed upon. I feel like our intelligence agency, and again, maybe they did, maybe we just allowed this meeting to take place, knowing this dust-up might have happened in the White House, but it seemed like our intelligence people would have told Trump, hey, I got a website to show you, because I didn't have to dig very far to get this information right here. Ukraine seeks to get reliable security guarantees from its allies to end the war and achieve a just peace. This matter will be on the agenda of the meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump on February 28th, during which Ukraine and the U.S. are set to sign a framework agreement on mineral resources. Again, that agreement had already been agreed upon. This was supposed to be a signing, but they are still talking about their security agreement in this document. What security guarantees Ukraine wants from its allies? On the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky once again emphasized that a just peace can only be achieved with clear security guarantees that would prevent the conflict from repeating. According to him, NATO membership is the simplest and most reliable way to ensure peace and stability, not only in Ukraine, but also in Europe. Now, you guys know I've already shown headlines. Trump said NATO ain't going to happen. Just stop asking for it. It's not going to happen. He made it very clear. He didn't say, well, we can talk about it. No, he said it's not going to happen. So that option was off the table. In fact, Trump mentioned that that's probably why the war started in the first place, with this talk of bringing Ukraine into NATO. So that was never an option, ever. So Zelensky should stop talking about it. Other people are yapping in his ear, kind of like when the girl's not sure she wants to leave the boyfriend, and all the people start yapping in her ear, telling her, what, you need to tell him this. That's what's happening right here. Zelensky knows what's right for him, but he's letting these people talk him into dumb stuff that really, that wasn't what he wanted to begin. He wanted it, but he knew better. He knew he couldn't get it. As several NATO members oppose Ukraine's accession, one of the main security guarantees, according to Zelensky, is funding the Ukrainian army, ensuring a force of at least 800,000 troops. Now, since Zelensky does not have that many people, needing to fund and ensure a force of 800,000 troops means somebody else is going to have to contribute to that, meaning troops. I'm talking about boots on the ground. Yeah, he's asking for more money right here, which is not part of the deal. That was not part of the agreement. But certainly putting boots on the ground was never part of the deal with the United States. That wasn't even an option. Speaking about the importance of ending the active phase of the war, Ukrainian president stated that a ceasefire is impossible without security guarantees and verification of the process. He supports the deployment of an allied peacekeeping contingent to prevent a new Russian attack. That's boots on the ground. That's not some idea. We don't create some little coalition website and call it a peacekeeping contingent. A peacekeeping contingent is what we sent in to Iraq and Kuwait. A lot of people getting together to invade a country. That's not an option. In fact, where Zelensky says that a ceasefire is impossible without security guarantees and verification of the process, he's already made up his mind. When he's already made the agreement with Rubio, but he's made up his mind when he gets to the White House, I'm not agreeing to that. He let these people talk him into including a security guarantee of troops, money, or a combination of the two. And there's no other option, according to him. This was a day before he went to the White House to meet Trump. They go on to state the Prime Minister emphasizes that the agreement with the U.S. is directly linked to the Ukraine security guarantees and that neither President Zelensky nor the cabinet would consider it otherwise. They're saying again, if you don't give us the money, the troops, or both, this deal is dead, even though they already agreed upon the deal. Now, this really got me. We're talking about the continuation of flooding money continuously into the country of a bunch of corrupt a-holes to continue to pay off Democrats and everybody else back in the United States. Check this out. President Zelensky also stressed that the agreement set to be signed on February 28th would pave the way for the next agreement on an investment fund with specific terms and amounts. So we're digging a deeper hole. The original agreement was to pay us back. Now we're paying them money to pay us back, and he wants us to agree to give him more money down the road. This agreement went from not too good for the United States to just a steaming pile of crap sitting on a plate in your face. I mean, I've never seen a deal go so bad so fast when you read through this. Zelensky added that his negotiations with Trump in Washington would not only focus on the mineral resources agreement. Well, wait a minute. There wasn't supposed to be negotiations in Washington. This was a signing photo op. The negotiation took place last week. Zelensky said, "My question will be very direct. Will the U.S. continue to support us or not? If not, can we buy weapons directly from the U.S.? Can we use frozen Russian assets to purchase weapons, for example, as well as for investments in various sectors such as mineral extraction? And I will discuss Ukraine's reconstruction." This guy's a clown, man. I mean, when you talk about a grifter, a con artist, and he's not even good at it. That's the thing. The guy's not even a wordsmith. He's not even good at what he does. He comes across as a con man, and he does a really bad job of it. Now, as you can see here, Trump recently stated that Ukraine should forget about NATO membership, as it is likely that Russia's leader Vladimir Putin decided to start the war because of Ukraine's desire to join NATO. Quote, NATO, you can forget about it. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing, meaning the war, started. Now, this got me down here at the bottom. As part of security guarantees, the leaders of several other countries have expressed their willingness to send peacekeeping troops. Can you say World War III? Because that's what we're talking about right here, World War III. Putin will destroy Europe. But the Democrats are happy about this because what it does is it prevents any kind of peacekeeping measure, because guess what happens? Ukraine ain't NATO. And we don't have an obligation to protect Ukraine even though we're going broke doing so. We do have a contractual obligation to protect other members of NATO. So when these other NATO countries send peacekeeping troops into Ukraine and Putin starts to kill them, we're going to get sucked into this war. And this will be World War III. We can only hope it's not going to include nukes. Now, Trump right here makes my point that I stated yesterday, that we don't have to put, quote, boots on the ground, meaning military, in order to keep Putin out of the rest of Ukraine. Because Putin is not going to attack American companies mining these rare minerals in Ukraine. He's not going to risk shedding the blood of any Americans that might be in Ukraine. He knows that. Trump emphasized that U.S.-Ukraine cooperation in the rare earth field would automatically provide a certain level of security, as the presence of American specialists on Ukrainian territory would serve as protection against renewed aggression from Russian troops. Quote, "Nobody's going to be messing around with our people when we're there, and so we'll be there that way." Zelensky should have been tickled pink with that. That would have ensured their safety. If we would have gone in there, Putin would have made it a point not to go anywhere near those mineral reserves where our people, our companies would be working. Now, speaking of minerals, and speaking of what I said earlier, that no studies have been done between 30 and 60 years ago, and it was the Soviet Union that did it. Here's some mapping on some of the minerals for that area. Now, I'll put this legend in the upper left-hand corner right there so you can see what minerals we're talking about. Graphite, manganese, iron, beryllium, lithium, uranium, titanium. Now, here are the minerals and what we would use them for. Titanium, used in aerospace, military applications. Graphite, essential for battery production. I wasn't aware that we use that much graphite for battery production, but apparently they have a good bit of it there. Lithium, a key component of lithium-ion batteries. That is probably one of the more vital ones right there. Beryllium below that, vital for defense and telecommunications, and then other rare earth elements. So as you can see, we definitely have a need for some of these, just not all of these. But I don't know that based on what we see right here, you see how much of that is still in Russian occupied areas. Are they willing to let the United States go in there, or were they, because it seems like the deal is off, go in there and take this stuff anyway? Because some of these areas are in areas that are more heavily populated areas. So they're going to let that type of industry go in there and essentially strip mine the land. Those bottom three, lithium, uranium, titanium, are three of the more important ones. I wouldn't say the most valuable necessarily, unless you want to consider the need of them, requiring that they become, or making them very valuable. And notice they put them classified. So the three ones that we would need the most as far as electronics and things like that we don't even know. I mean, we've got metric tons of what they think are there with the graphite, manganese, iron, and beryllium. But the three that we mostly would need, there's no real legitimate record of it. In fact, if you look at the map, look at the colors, okay? First, let's look at lithium. Lithium is kind of that, and that's definitely need to be mined, I should say, for battery use. Look at the tiny little deposits of lithium. Now, again, this may not be accurate because the studies were done 30 to 60 years ago, but, I don't know how much more we're actually going to see. Small little deposits. I counted 4 deposits of lithium and 4 very small deposits of lithium. 2 of them are in Russia-occupied territory. Uranium, a little bit more uranium, but again, not a ton of it. And titanium has got a good bit of titanium over there. But again, we don't know how much because that amount is classified. The biggest thing that I want from a takeaway of this is please, 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 if you want to share the video, but please let friends, family members, other people know that there was no reneging on the part of the United States when Zelensky came. I have to repeat again, the agreement was made 7 days prior to Zelensky's visit to the White House. They agreed upon the conditions and the terms of this. This was supposed to simply be a photo op. They had 2 chances to sign that over there in Europe. They didn't do it knowing that they wanted the photo op. However, I'm not sure, and again, I'm going to state this again, our intelligence people maybe knew all this. They just obviously didn't share it with us. Why would they? But clearly, Zelensky wasn't coming over here for just a photo op, which is what we thought. He had already been contacted by a bunch of these Democrats out here that make money off of these forever wars, and Republicans too. Lindsey Graham is acting like he's mad at Zelensky. He's not. He's just embarrassed because probably the advice they gave him has backfired and sent him back home packing. I can guarantee you one thing. Lindsey Graham was part of this consortium of people who were telling Zelensky, ask for this. Guarantee you that. So he's trying to act like he's not part of it now by playing good cop, bad cop. But all these people that talked Zelensky into changing course and coming over here and making additional demands after the agreement was already made, they've not only got egg on their face, but their bank accounts are probably going to suffer because they were banking on something happening and a continuation of things. Now I think it's going to be up to Europe, thank God, because again, Zelensky flew straight to London. They got a bunch of European people together. And guess what? In closing, I want you to see this video. And I want you to understand how close to World War III this puts us. The UK has just agreed, this is like minutes ago that I pulled this video down. UK has just agreed to supply boots on the ground for Ukraine. So UK soldiers are about to be fighting Russians in the eastern part of Ukraine. We don't get much closer to World War III than what we're witnessing right now, and it ain't Trump's fault.
First, we will keep the military aid flowing and keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia to strengthen Ukraine now. Second, we agreed that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be at the table. Third, in the event of a peace deal, we will keep boosting Ukraine's own defensive capabilities to deter any future invasion. Fourth, we will go further to develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine and to guarantee the peace. Not every nation will feel able to contribute, but that can't mean that we sit back. Instead, those willing will intensify planning now with real urgency. The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air.
And I don't know about you, but I've still not seen the actual Epstein list.